today's readings, are organized around the idea of the cures of leprosy. I'd like to look a little bit at the first reading, but I think the most interesting part of the reading is the part that precedes what we have in today's liturgy. It's the story of Naaman. He was a very, very important general in the armies in Syria. And on one of the exploits they had into Israel, they brought back a bunch of slaves, and one of the slaves was a very small Israeli girl, and she became one of the attendants in his home. And one day when she noticed that he had leprosy, he contracted leprosy, but had it fairly well under control. People didn't see it. But when she saw the leprosy, she said to him, she says, in Israel we have prophets that can cure leprosy. Well, no one knew about the cure of leprosy at that time at all. If it was cured, it was always miraculous. So he decided he was going to Israel, and he took a great retinue with him and all kinds of servants and all this sort of stuff. And he went up to the home of the prophet Elijah. And before he could even get to the door, the prophet Elijah just screamed out the door, "Go down to the Jordan River and wash 7 times." The guy said, "The Jordan River?" He says, "We have better rivers in Damascus." He says, "We have more beautiful rivers in my country, bigger rivers and everything." So he said, "Let's go home." And the little Israeli girl said, "If he'd asked you to do something complicated, you would have done it. Why don't you at least try this?" So then we have this story. He did, went into the river, washed 7 times, and was cured. Completely cured. The thing that I find interesting about that is it has to do with the whole thing in our lives of forgiveness. We always think of forgiveness as a very, very difficult thing. I remember one time I was saying Mass. When we go back to wash our hands, we say, "Lord, may I be cleansed of all my sins and iniquities." And I washed my hands, and I was just thinking to myself, I wish it was that easy. And as I'm going back to the altar, I sort of hear God say in my heart, "Oh, it is." For God, it is. Forgiveness is a very easy thing. In our world, because of the type of world we live in, we see only 2 solutions to problems. One solution is recompense. If I steal $1,000 from you, give $1,000 back. I steal a painting from your home, return the painting. Recompense. It's fine. The things we can't correct, if I burn your photographs, I should be punished. If I kill someone, I should be punished, because there's no way to deal with that. So in our background, there's recompense and there's punishment. It's the only 2 ways we deal with things. But that's not the way God deals with things. One of the ways God deals with things is recompense. But that is the major way he deals with everything. And it's because, being God, you can do that. When we think of Last Judgment, we sort of think of people being divided into those who are saved and those who are damned and all this sort of thing. But the Last Judgment, as it is really presented in the Scriptures, if you watch the Scriptures clear through, is this justifying or evening. So like a person who comes forward, who because of all kinds of circumstances in their life was never able to get an education, God can simply present them with all the information and knowledge they want. They'll have their education. If you're a person who did a wonderful job in working in movies, but because of politics you never got the Academy Award, he'll hand you that. Anything you come up, if you had a child who was murdered or a child who was killed in an automobile accident, when you come forward for judgment, you'll see that child sitting on the lap of Jesus. If you lost a wife or a husband, you come forward for judgment, you will receive whatever you lost. That's why people are so forgiving in heaven. Everything has been rectified. It's all been put together. We can't do that on the face of the earth. So whenever you and I think of sin, we always think of recompense or punishment. But that's not what it's all about. What it's all about is evening everything up. And things that are so difficult for us, things that are so impossible for us, are absolutely nothing for God. He can do anything. He can do it very easily. And so all these problems we see in the world, you and I worship a God who not only can take care of it, one day will. And that day we call Last Judgment. And I tell you quite honestly, Last Judgment is going to be the most exciting, the most wonderful day you have ever experienced in your life. It's tragedy that people are so afraid of that. But to see everyone's life rectified, it will be the most wonderful thing that has ever happened in our universe.